I'm Dane Rose, and in this video, I'll be exploring what, in my experience, for me, is one of the most important paradigms of paradigms to understand. And what we're looking at in this video is this. You may be a Christian and then discover there are some amazing techniques, some amazing resources in Buddhism, and be confused, like, well, there were some techniques in Christianity that worked for me, and now there are some techniques in Buddhism that work for me. And then, or you may be a Christian and then find that something in paganism works for you. But then, according to Christianity, paganism is bad. According to paganism, the Christians stomped all over the pagans. And then you read this book, and your whole life unfolds if you understand the 5 love languages, or you read this book and the 7 habits of highly effective people, and you realize that there's this large assortment of systems, of ways of approaching and thinking. The slow approach, the get more done approach, the get rich approach, the simpler life approach, right? And underneath all of these is one important trend. Every human being in the history of humanity has desired to feel sustainably better and avoid feeling chronically worse. And so all of these different strategies heading in all these different directions are all aiming at that goal. Everyone who puts forth a system and everyone who follows a system is trying to do one thing. The system advocates, the system designers, are designing systems that they believe will facilitate sustainable well-being, usually based on their own experience. And the people following the systems are people who hope, who pray, who believe that if they follow that system, they will experience more sustainable well-being than if they don't, right? That they'll be better off. And this is fundamental to anything, is everyone wants to be better off and does every single thing that they do from one part of themselves or another, utilizing a variety of strategies to be better off. Now, when all these systems are going in different directions, it's confusing. Which one? Just tell me which one is going to make me feel sustainably better, and I'll do it. Right? I'll become a Christian, I'll become a Buddhist, I'll become a Marxist, I'll become a capitalist. Just show me the way, show me the path that will make me feel sustainably better, that will get rid of all this horrible pain. Show me the way. Well, it's simple. You become born again. It's simple. You eat raw food. It's simple. You become a Seth follower. You listen to channeled entities. It's simple. You meditate every day with crystals. You eat all meat. Eliminate carbs and sugar. It's simple, right? It's so simple. You do all of 10,000 different things that have worked for all of 10,000 different people. And often this approach or this proliferation of systems has emerged in a rather logical way. People were stumbling around, and then an individual person who had tried this and tried this and tried this and tried this, they then combine something. They find a little bit of something that works, they combine it, and lo and behold, their life gets better. And they found it, eureka, right? They tried this and they tried that, and this didn't work and that didn't, and eureka, now they've found the promised land. And now, having found, heaven, having found the way towards sustainable well-being, they're excited, right? Let's make a business. That's the capitalist model. Let's make a business helping everyone do the way, right? And of course, within chauvinism, it's always one way, our way, whatever our way is, that's the way. It's not one of many ways. So this is the way, right? And we just, if we would all get into this, we would all live happily ever after. And so that's kind of the model. And so, we find ourselves then with all these different paths. You can go to any religion you want, and they'll explain that is the way. And you can go to any metaphysical fair, right? And they'll have many, many booths, and this is the way, this is the way, this is the way. And so what we're looking at here is how do we navigate and make sense of all of this in an either-or reality, right? Because in chauvinism, it has to be one or the other is the best. And we all want the best one. Nobody wants the worst one, right? Come join my religion. It's the worst one, right? We'll take all your money. We'll spend lots of time. You'll feel more miserable at the end, right? You'll feel more guilty, more shame-based, and we'll ask you for even more money, right? That's join us, right? Nobody's saying that, right? They're all saying this is the best one, and listing the features. Now, digressing for a little moment here, the same thing is going on inside, right? We were born, and then, we were doing this, and our needs weren't being met. And then we learned that screaming at the top of our lungs got milk. Oh my goodness, screaming, wonderful, the promised land, screaming has got, I finally found the technique that works, screaming at the top of my lungs, and then I get milk. But then age 3 or 4 or 5, I'm still screaming, but suddenly I'm getting slapped, right? Stop screaming. What do you mean? I thought that's how we got milk, right? No, you should be obedient and quiet and polite. And then I get milk? Yes, you'll get a cookie. You'll have some milk and cookie, but do that, right? And so now you learn to be silent and quiet and polite. And so, the promised land is. And then you go to school, and now you're supposed to show initiative and do your homework and do this, right? And then you're supposed to do this. So as we move through life, in all of these different environments, there are different, as we progress through life, different strategies work at different times. And in different environments, different strategies work. Dad likes a direct, firm approach, and mom likes to be praised and pampered, and then she'll ask what you want, right? And so you have to learn, 2 different styles to find the promised land. And so you've got all of these inner approaches, right? And, if you're in a leadership position, take, President of the United States or whatever, when a decision needs to be made and the cabinet is there, right? And the warrior, the general suggests, how to drop a nuclear bomb on them in order to, solve the free trade issues. This politician suggests this, the environmentalist says, no, don't do that, do this, and all these different strategies to create well-being for the best of everyone, right? And then we have to decide again. In a leadership position, we have to listen to all the different advice, and then we have to decide. And for each of us, we want to have a tantrum, and we want to be meek and quiet, and we want to try and impress someone, and we want to be, seductive. And another one says, no, let's be cool, let's be confident, and then, then we'll gain social rank, right? We'll show how much we don't care. Then we'll get what we really care about, right? Because we pretend we don't care, and that's the way it works in our cult. So do that, and then the other one says, do this, and so there's all these. Which is it, right? Which is it, right? So ultimately, we have to decide. So the first thing that I want to kind of suggest in making progress with this situation of overwhelm and confusion is that there are many paths to sustainable well-being. Everyone in the history of humanity has pursued sustainable well-being and will always pursue sustainable well-being, and they'll do it in a variety of different ways. At one point was all religion, then it's atheism, then it's this, then it's this. So there are many paths, number one. Number two, that the value of the path can be measured by the efficiency with which it transforms your energy into sustainable well-being. Meaning, if you go to Mass and sing and read the Bible, and you find yourself in a state of ecstasy, and you find a nice community around you of people who like you because you're like them, right? Cults always like other cult members. And so, you've joined our cult. Wonderful. Welcome. So you have a great social network. You feel wonderfully ecstatic. It's not particularly harming. It's not in your way. I mean, yes, they ask for money, but you have some money to give them, and so no harm there. And so your well-being goes up. You feel closer. You feel more meaning. You feel excited. You're engaged. You have friends. It's a very efficient. Let's say it's 50%, 70% efficient at converting your time, your money, and your natural resources into sustainable well-being. It's not blowing all up in your face, right? So it's kind of working, right? So then there's this other thing. Well, you could also go and do a meditation thing. But the meditation thing, there's people with dreadnoughts and beads and, and I don't know how to deal with that. So it's inefficient, right? I've got to figure out what all this means and all this music that I don't like and So you could say then that being a Catholic is more efficient at converting your energy into sustainable well-being. Where for somebody else, it's the complete opposite. The stuffed up things and that dead guy up on the cross there. I mean, what were they thinking? That's the image of the Creator. It has to be a man, of course. How irritating, and then nails stuck in his. Why didn't they remember the good time, the Last Supper? Why didn't they have that up on the top there to celebrate and have a feast? And why don't we have some free food, right? No. They had to focus on the 3 days of his life when he was miserable to make you feel maximum guilty. Oh, how disgusting. I'm going to do drums and do this and oh, good, someone else has weird hair like me. We're all not conforming in this group. We're all non-conforming. You're not conforming, you're not conforming, you're not conforming. Me too, I'm not conforming. We're all not conforming. And so, isn't it wonderful? We're all rebels together, rebelling in the same ways. It's wonderful. And so, I feel attuned to that. I feel excited. So it's converting energy, your time, your money, your natural resources efficiently into sustainable well-being. That's the measure, basically, of a system. Any system is a step forward for you if it converts energy more efficiently than your present system to sustainable well-being. So if you look, you can look at these as cars, right? Cars, they're all designed to transport you. But some people like trucks, and some people like, Corvettes, and some people like Priuses, and so they're all designed to transport you. But all things being equal, you would value something that got 50 miles to the gallon rather than 5 miles to the gallon, all things being equal. It's more efficient. It's more intelligent, meaning it takes more craftsmanship to, get 50 miles out of 1 gallon of gasoline rather than 5 miles, right? So good job, right? Or it's, per kilowatt hour, it gets X amount of miles. It goes more efficiently, right? And it's safer, right? So that's what you're looking for, is you're looking for more well-being per unit of time, money, and natural resources. That can be mental well-being, emotional well-being, sexual well-being, financial well-being, social well-being, logistical well-being, taste well-being, smell well-being. You're looking for that. We all want to feel sustainably better. So this is the way. This is a way. So any system that accelerates the amount of sustainable well-being per unit of energy consumed is a step forward in your evolution. Because evolution, what is evolving is the system that converts energy to sustainable well-being. And the well-being is the reward that tells you you're on the right path. You're evolving. Like, we're part of life, and life is always evolving, which means it's always changing. And it's changing in one of two ways. It's either getting worse, more painful, more sick, more deteriorated, or it's getting better, right? Healthier, more alive, more complex, more beautiful, more true, right? It's moving and it's always changing. It's moving, and when it's evolving constructively, it's getting better. And so the signal that our biology sends us is, yes, you're on the right track. You're part of life. You're winning, right? You're converting energy more and more efficiently into sustainable well-being. You're moving towards grace. You're winning, right? Good job. Keep it up, right? So that's the evolution of systems. All systems are designed to promote well-being. And all systems do that for a given person at a certain efficiency rate. For one person, Catholicism might be 5 miles to the gallon. It's hard work, and we don't get very far. And it's very wasteful and stressful and irritating, but we do make some progress, right? Usually, you can make some progress in just about any system. Usually. If it's halfway decent, you can, apply some creativity, some effort, interpret it in a different way, and you can usually get somewhere. Even suffering, right? No pain, no gain. Let me suffer as much as possible to gain as much as possible. It's a little bit convoluted, but you can usually learn something, hopefully ultimately to stop suffering, right? And then but even if you figure that out, and then I never suffer again because I got really clear on that, and then I'm moving towards sustainable well-being. So that's kind of the general landscape. And our job, the witness's job, the observer's job, is to figure out which system is going to give us the most mileage. And this is a complex equation, because mediocre systems have a big network. And big networks offer big resources, right? So if you join a network that has 2 people, imagine joining Facebook and it only had 2 people. It's a limited network. You can't do all that much, on a 2-person network. You can do, whatever 2 people can do, but you can't do what takes 1 million people to do. You can't sign a 1 million person petition on a 2-person network, right? So the size of the network matters. The bigger the network, the more mediocre the network. Mediocre, medium, medium, average. Average, medium, mediocre, right? So you never have bleeding edge networks with the majority of people. So you have the power of the network, which is the law of mass, and then you have the power of intelligence, or the power of excellence, which is the law of intelligence. There will always only be a minority of geniuses. by the time everyone reaches to the status that was once called a genius, there are now a very small minority of geniuses that have gone beyond it, right? So the bleeding edge is always occupied by a distinct minority. Now, the minority has the superior technology, but the smaller network. So take your pick, right? You've got the big network. It's mediocre, but you can connect with a lot of people and you feel normal. It doesn't take any thought. You just copy what other people do. Or you've got a small network, which doesn't have as much resources, but has superior intelligence. It's got the bleeding edge technology. Like you've got the first fax machine. It's just hardly anyone else has a fax machine, right? So you can now send letters faster than anyone else in the world, but there's only a few thousand people initially that have a fax machine. So, you're limited. You've got the superior technology, and then by the time it becomes average, then there's something new, email. Because that comes average, then there's text, so the best technology has the smallest network. When a new technology is just being invented, like the next new religion, every religion is a technology, every book is a technology, every language a technology. When the next religion is just being formed, there's only 2 people that know about it, or just the founder, right? It's this wonderful system of moving energy in this way and doing it more efficiently, and only one person knows about it, the founder, right? And then 2 or 3 people know about it, right? And this great new system. But, you try and have a community night at that religion and you're hanging out with 3 people, right? And so you've got the superior technology, or you have the superior network. The majority, the norm, the average, or the minority, the excellence, the bleeding edge, the risk, the early adopters. Now, there's not a given around which is better, other than if you're really excited about being on the bleeding edge, then you should be on the bleeding edge. Because one is not objectively better than the other. They're both necessary, right? Later, 50 years after those 3 people formed that new religion, 50 years if that's a truly superior technology, 50 years later, everyone will be doing it. Then it'll be a big network. But by that time, there'll be a new idea, a new thought that only 2 or 3 people know about that's even better, right? And so you always have to choose between excellence and the majority, between mediocrity and not having to think and what's normal, and between excellence, the bleeding edge, risk, and a smaller network. So, what are you trying to do? If you're dying of cancer and you don't have any resources and you can't think straight, becoming part of a bleeding edge novel network where you have lots of risk and need to evaluate everything and you've never done it before may not be a good plan, right? But if you're tired of the stupidity that is all around you, and you've tried this approach and this approach, then becoming part of a bleeding edge technology, forming a bleeding edge technology, may be the only thing worth living for. And so, let's be aware of that. Now, stepping back for a moment, all life is a revolution. In-breath, out-breath, in-breath, out-breath. Left of the sun, right of the sun, left of the sun, right of the sun. Proton, electron, proton, electron, proton, electron. In-breath, out-breath, up, down, right? Life is a pattern of cycles. It's all it's ever been. It will always be a pattern of cycles. And the most graceful cycle is a circle, right? If you have to choose between this tire for your car and this tire, which one are you going to choose? Well, everyone has been choosing this for some time. Now, why? This is nice and simple. It's angular. It's an interesting look, right? It's just a violent ride. Simple, crude, dogmatic systems are violent systems. They're painful to live, right? Circular systems are graceful systems. They provide a nice ride. And so reality is circular. You know, scientists say that once the universe was the size of a pea. They don't say the size of a quarter, right? A plane. They say it started off as a small sphere and then it's been getting bigger and bigger. What's the Earth? A sphere. What's the sun? A sphere. What are the stars? Spheres. We've just got spheres around spheres around spheres. What's an atom? Two spheres moving around spheres, right? So most of life is built up of circles, and they're not static. They're in a cycle. You could call it the breath of life. And so to live, to be a part of life, you've got to move around the circle. If you're breathing in, you have to finish that and then breathe out. If you're breathing out, you have to finish that and breathe in. And you will keep living as long as you're going through the cycle, right? So the cycle of life, from birth to growth, to dying, to death, from birth to growth, that's one cycle of life. The breath in and out, that's another cycle of life, right? New ideas, possibilities, blossoming possibilities, dying possibilities, dead possibilities. These are cycles of life. And so we're all part of many cycles. Learning, growing, healing, getting sick, healing, getting sick, healing. Moving to the right as we walk, moving to the left as we walk, moving to the right as we walk, left, right, left, right. That's a cycle, right? If we just do right, 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 we fall over, right? And so that's the key thing to understand is as you evaluate a system, does it honor the full circle? In other words, if you go to a breathing school and they say, here's our great discovery, breathing in is what it's all about. Just incredible. Breathe in, and then breathe in some more, and some more. And just keep breathing in because that's the best thing. That's the only way to live, is breathe in as much as you possibly can, and don't breathe out. Wait a minute. You're missing something. Like, if you have a system that says to this car wheel, go down here, but then don't go up here. Go down, but don't go up. How's the wheel going to keep spinning? That's a very short ride, just half a tire spin, right? You've got a bad system, right? So the first thing to understand is that any good system, because you're looking at your self-help, your religion, your dogma, your New Age guru, whatever it is a system. It's a pattern of thinking. And its job is to take you all around the circle. That's its job. Now, if it's a complex system and honors all places on the circle, then it's going to be a very graceful system. There's not going to be any huge shocks. If it's a very crude system, the 4 ways to happiness, the 4 agreements, the this, whatever, and that's it. That's it. Nothing else, right? Well, then it's going to be a violent system, right? Because you've got nothing else, right? And every time you're going around in that very simplified version. So what systems do, first of all, is they're taking the what systems do is they're taking the complex sphere and they're simplifying them to a level that we can grasp. And so we remove the sphere and what we're left with is the square, right? when we say this is the system of life: birth, life, dying, death. But in truth, it's a circle. It's continually moving from one to the other. So what we can learn from this is that more complex systems will be more graceful, will have more honor for more parts of us than simpler system. So we take the sphere, and we could break it down to a square, but if we turned it into a 20-sided object, it'd be a little bit more graceful than just a square, right? So symmetry or complexity. And then if it's symmetrical, right, it's going to work better, right? So if we have a watermelon tire, it's going to be less efficient than if we have a symmetrical round tire, right? And so when our bicycle tire gets warped, we get it straight because it takes more energy and is more wobble. It's more violent to drive an asymmetrical system or a simple system. So we now know that we want our system to be as complex as we can handle. And obviously, when we're limited in our thinking ability, we need a simpler system. It's just going to involve more suffering, more crudeness, more confusion. Because there'll be all kinds of things that don't fit the system. The system is a nice, tidy little system. You do this, and then you do this, and then you do this. So this is wonderful. And then you do it all over again, right? But what happens when this happens? The system isn't designed for that. So shut up, right? You're distracting us. You do this, then you do this, then you do this, right? And when this happens, So simple systems have to fight off a lot of reality because they don't work very well. There's all kinds of situations that don't work, and this cannot be acknowledged because as soon as you admit that we have a very nice, tidy, simple system, it just doesn't work very well in most of life, then that creates all kinds of headache, right? Everyone's upset. What do you mean it doesn't work? You told me it would work. And so we've got to fight off reality. Don't talk about that, because it doesn't fit into the system, right? You're supposed to trust your therapist. Well, what happens when your therapist is a pedophile? Trust your therapist? See, we don't have a system for that. We don't have a system for how do you tell if this, right? We have a very, very simple system. One step, trust your therapist. Go do therapy and then trust your therapist. But what if they don't know what they're doing? You see, this requires a huge upgrade in the system. You've now got to be able to evaluate a therapist on 5 or 10 different metrics, which means you've got to learn all those metrics. I don't want to learn all those metrics. Okay, then just go trust your therapist. And most of the time that system works. Most of the time, maybe half the time, right? Half the time it works at least. You trust your therapist and things get a little better, right? As opposed to don't go to therapy at all and things got better because you didn't go, right? That happens too. So the more complex the system, more you have to be responsible and think and balance all these things, but the more it works, right? And the more symmetrical the system is, the more it works. Now let's focus on that symmetry bit, right? Because here's here's the one, here's the sphere, here's all that is, and then we decide to focus on half of what is, right? Let's focus on the outer world and ignore the inner world. Let's go faster and ignore going slower. Let's get rich and ignore getting poor. Let's make money and ignore relationships. Okay, so that's our system. Get rich, get bigger, focus on the outer world, look good, and all these other things get ignored. And then you do it again, right? And so that works until your partner leaves you, your kids hate you, your health goes down, and then you realize, oh, the system isn't working, right? And so then what do? Well, then you go to the other side, right? And they say, well, ignore your money, focus on your family, go to therapy, Eat well, don't do any work you don't want to do, don't work long hours, resign from that toxic corporate world. Now you focus on that and now this, but now who's going to pay the therapist bill when that toxic job is not there, and when this and this. And so simple systems focus on either or. Masculine or feminine, inner or outer, looking good or being authentic and not looking good, and then that's really good. You didn't look good. You did something very inappropriate there. It shows you're making progress. You did something very appropriate here. It shows you're making progress. So in simple systems, it tends to be polarized, right? And one is good and the other is bad. And then you just have to pick which polarizing system you want to use at the time. And it's kind of like deciding which leg do you want to use for walking. Let's walk on the right leg for a bit, and hop along maybe, and go to the left leg. Right? The right leg is tired, right? Hop along the left leg. But the most valuable systems, the most useful systems are not only complex, they're symmetrical, meaning they take you all around the circle in nuanced, complex, conscious ways that are efficient and that work. And they don't neglect one part at the expense of the other. That's called a blind spot. It's called a bicycle wheel that doesn't have spokes in that area, and as it gets bent, right? So it collapses. And as one part of the circle collapses, it all collapses. You notice that? You notice that if your bank account collapses, that's one part of the circle, then your house collapses, then your marriage collapses because you don't have a house. It's kind of hard to resolve and it's hard to take a time out when you're living in your car, right? And so that collapses, and then your health collapses because you don't have money for medicine and you're eating cheaper food and da-da-da. And so when one part of the circle collapses of all the different things you need to tend to, right? You notice though, you feel absolutely meaningless and depressed. I want to go to work. You notice that pretty soon you're falling behind financially. Your hatred of your job is not going on, rubbing off well with coworkers. Then you're self-sabotaging because it's all pointless. And then suddenly, focusing on outer success that seems completely meaningless collapses everything, right? Or you ignore your health, but you're focused on your family. You're focused on your family, right? You spend quality time with your child, and then you go to work and do this, but then your body falls down one day, right? And when your body falls down, then the job collapses. You can't spend time with your family. So when one part of the circle collapses, the rest collapses as well. What gives the circle its strength, what makes the sphere such an elegant shape geometrically, is it's all reinforcing itself. This bit is reinforcing this bit, is reinforcing this bit, it's reinforcing this bit, right? And if the circle, if all you have is a band and it falls apart, it's very, very flimsy. It's very easy to break, right? A sphere is an incredibly efficient geometric shape at converting energy into transportation, at not collapsing. It's just so efficient. And so naturally, life is an efficient program. You have to be very efficient to grow the entire universe from. Can you imagine how efficient life is? 25 billion years ago, life had a bit of energy this big under its jurisdiction. What would you do with a bit of energy this big, some gases and stuff? What would you do with it? You got time to play around for 25 billion years? What would you do? Well, life has made the entire universe, including this planet. And in order to get that big, that successfully, and last this long, I mean, how many things do you know that are 25 billion years old and growing by the day? You've got to have an efficient plan. And so life is filled with efficient programs. And so what do you see all around you? The moon is a circle, the car wheel is a circle, the planet is a circle, the sun is a circle, the orbit is a circle, this is a... Circles seem to be a very efficient shape, don't they? Right? They've been around for a long time, they're working, they're very efficient. And so you don't want to collapse the circle into a pancake, right? That's not a very fun car to drive. So you want to find systems that are efficient, that are complex, that are circular, that cover the whole thing, right? You don't want to find a relationship system on how to stay together forever. It's not a complete system, is it? You want to find a good system that helps you start a relationship, evaluate the relationship, grow the relationship, deepen the relationship, maximize the relationship, slowly wither and withdraw from the relationship, and end for good reasons on good terms. That's a complete cycle. Knowing when to end your relationship and why, and on good terms, that's a good relationship system. It's taking you full circle. It took you into the relationship for good reasons, grew the relationship for good reasons, and ended the relationship for good reasons. Now, death is a good reason to end the relationship, right? One of you dies. Pretty good reason to end the relationship, right? But there are other good reasons to end the relationship. What about value hierarchies? Interesting thought, right? Value hierarchies, what are those, right? Well, everyone values the same things. Do you value honesty? I do. Do you value having fun? I do. Do you value hard work? I do. Do you value joy? I do. We all value the same things. But we prioritize them in a different sequence. We value them in a different hierarchy. And here's what I mean. Person A, maybe you, want to have fun, and then you want to be honest. Person B wants to be honest, and then they want to have fun. The same thing. Fun, honesty, you value fun, I value fun, you value honesty, I value honesty. But these two people are going to behave differently around a sexual affair, right? One, fun before honesty. The other, honesty before fun. One doesn't have the affair. The other one has the affair. Now, the thing is, most things come to light. Certainly if one or both people want them to, they come to light. And so then it becomes clear. I don't have affairs, even when they could be fun. You do. And the kind of life that we can build when I'm deferring pleasure for a longer vision and you're taking pleasure for a shorter vision, I'm not going to be able, as a longer vision person, going to maximize what we can build because you're not trustworthy. So I want to end the relationship. And maybe you can spend time with someone who cheats on you while you're cheating on them, and nothing's lost because you're both prioritizing short-term gain over long-term gain, and it's equal, it's balanced. And so one person's long-term vision isn't being ruined by the other person, right? Or, whatever it is. But this is an example of value hierarchy, and it's one reason to end relationships, right? I value the pursuit of truth above all else. I value harmony above all else. Well, there's a conflict if ever I heard one at Thanksgiving. One person wants to tell the truth about all the things that are going on, and the other person just wants everyone to pretend that it's a wonderful Thanksgiving. Well, that's obviously a clash, right? And so if those can't get resolved, that's one reason to end relationship. Another is, someone may help you. Like I was with one woman who was by far, by a factor of maybe 500%. She was 500% more sexually satisfying with me than any of 100 women that I've spent time with. 500% more. The ideal lover. Ideal in every possible way, right? Ideal. So naturally, we had, sex 3 or 4 times a day. So that's something that was absolutely perfect at a sexual level. The sex and the emotions, the conversations while we were having sex were absolutely perfect. There's just one problem, right? She wanted a normal man. That was her number one goal, a normal man. And so everything that I carefully did that I thought was intelligent, which meant that it wasn't normal, she complained about and didn't see any benefit in. Why do you have to dress like that? That's not the normal way to dress. Why don't you just say this instead of this? That's the normal way to say things. Why don't you think this instead of... That's the normal way to think things, right? And that was all, her whole reference point was normalcy. And, well, you can see the conflict, right? So there was a choice there, right? So the best sexual relationship blossomed and came to an end over this thing when things shifted, right? So when it became clear to me that I would have to choose between being normal and having the best sex of my life, or being innovative and having, 80% less quality sex, which I've met in everyone else, well, that's a choice, right? And so it was good for that to end on that basis, meaning there's nothing wrong with her and her values. It's just, I'm so dissatisfied with normal that it would have killed me to try and pivot into being what I was so dissatisfied with, right? Plus, what made the sex so satisfying for her were the very things that weren't normal about me, right? If I had been normal, I wouldn't have been with an older woman, right? Because that normal, guys are supposed to like younger women. Well, she was older than me, right? So, if I truly prayed at her Bible, I wouldn't have picked her, right? So it's kind of, that's also a little bit of a self, a sign of a little bit of a lack of integrity, is if you follow your own playbook and you don't exist or you don't have any value if you do, it's not necessarily a very good playbook for you. But nevertheless, that's a tension there. And so that's why it ended, right? So the beautiful heart connection, the beautiful passion and sexuality is why it opened and began. And then why it ended was she would have been having a fit if making these videos. These videos would never have happened if I had pursued that particular path, because this is not how normal guys talk. Normal guys don't sit down on a Sunday night and spend an hour talking to strangers about these issues. That's not what normal people do. They watch football and Netflix and DM people, and that's what they do, right? So I wanted the chance to explore this part of me, which means I need to be with people who are not going to kill it by constantly criticizing it, and give it a little bit of honor, enough that it doesn't actually become, kill off this part of my psyche, my possibility field. And I was, of course, sad that she didn't see the value of this, of what could happen in a non-normal relationship. But, you can't control other people, and so that's why we're separate. So, So we had a good relationship ending. We had a decent closure, right? And for this reason, like, you want a normal person, I want this, I want more commitment in here, you want to do more normal things there. And so that's why we go apart, right? So endings are not bad, right? Everything has a beginning and end. The purpose is to make it conscious and have a good reason to end. And so a good system will take you through that. A good religion will invite you in, help you grow, but also tell you when to leave the religion. That's a good religion, right? It's a good system, right? If you find that you're dealing with too much hypocrisy and getting sick around this belief system, here's how and why to leave the belief system. That's a good religion. A good therapist will say, I think we should stop therapy, or I think you should work with so-and-so, because these are the basis to start a therapeutic relationship. These are a basis to deepen it, and these are the basis to end it. In other words, you want a system. If you are to find a good system, it's got to be a system that covers the terrain through the in-breath and the out-breath. If all it says is take a big inhale and then hold it and then take another inhale and then live happily ever after, it's a dumb system. It's not dealing with life. It's not dealing with cycles. So, we've got lots of dumb systems because there's all kinds of people wanting to hook people and they don't want to let them go, right? And so the goal isn't to help people. That would be to let them go again. So if a lover sees that you're not happy and she loves you, she will let you go. If a lover wants to hook you and sees that you aren't happy, she will start having hysterics and saying, don't leave me, I know you're miserable, but just hang on there in your misery, and one of these days I will be happy, and you can just carry on being miserable, don't let go. And so you want the system to carry on, cover the full loop. And then this is, a little bit easier to see, in differences between like Eastern systems and Western systems. But basically, you have the one, the uninterrupted whole, the uninterrupted self, the uninterrupted life, the uninterrupted psyche. It's all one ecology. But that can't be worked with. That's unconscious. That's too big for the conscious mind to grasp, all those nuances. And so what we do is we cut the one into many. We descend from the Garden of Eden into the knowledge of polarity. And then we cut the polarities into yet more polarities. And now we have lots of little boxes. And we pretend that the boxes are reality, but they're not. They're just words. They're symbols for reality. But, you call God Jesus, and I call God Muhammad. Those are two boxes, right? The names are not important, is what I'm getting at. In your system, the names are not important. Never fight about names. I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing imaginable is people will fight over Muhammad or Jesus, but they won't fight over Jesus or Jesus or all the many languages that Jesus is translated into. Because they could have a big fight about that, right? You say Jesus. No, it's Jesus. No, it's Jesus. It's Jesus. Never fight about a word. But what there is tension about is different systems emphasize different territories. Gurdjieff, for example, focuses extensively on thought and different, ideas and tensions of this and that, and there are different paradigms that people use to look at and evaluate a system. Now, unfortunately, most of the systems are not as complex as they could be and are more dogmatic than is helpful and do not cover the whole territory. They cover a part. And this is the next piece. This is the next piece. So intelligence is the efficiency with which you transform energy into sustainable well-being. you plus a system equals a well-being quotient, right? So it's you plus the system. Now, what I'm getting at here is, for example, if you are young and in a creative stage in life and you want to learn all there is to know in the world, then you will benefit from traveling the world and seeing lots of different ways of doing things, right? And then you'll settle on one. If instead what you get at that stage is someone saying, stay here in this town and do it this way, and that's the only way there is to do it, you have stifled well-being. You have very low well-being coming from that system because you at that stage are needing this and the system at that stage is doing something else. Now, on the other hand, you take that same system of be here in this town, nobody leaves, nobody comes, we do things the way we all know each other and this, and after your tour of the globe, if you pass through this town and find that this happens to be your favorite town, well then, now you've got a wonderful system, right? So you've got lots of well-being because it fits you. It fits you at that stage in time. And if through a death in the family or a trauma in the town, etc., you change, it may no longer fit you. And so the goal is always sustainable well-being, but you change and the system changes. And so the amount of sustainable well-being will vary as you grow and change and as the system grows and changes. And to give you an example, if you've been hopping a while on your left foot, hop, 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 right? Hop, hop, hop on your left foot. You've been hopping along on your left foot, and your left foot is really, really tired. And your right foot is atrophying, just hanging there. And you come across a system that's about hopping on the right foot. And now you're hop, hop, hop on the right foot. Oh, it's heaven. You have no idea. The left foot has been waiting for a break for so long. And now it's got this break and it's hopping along on the right. Oh, so wonderful. It's beautiful. It's magnificent. It's the best system that I've imaginable. Isn't it perfect? Yes. Everyone in the system agrees that their system is the best system. It's wonderful. And then you're hopping, hop, 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 hop. Now, after maybe a month of hopping on the right foot, perhaps, you remember the good old days of hopping on the left foot. It's now rested, muscles have built back up. Wouldn't it be nice to go on the left foot, right? And yes, it would. You see, most systems are not symmetrical. They're asymmetrical, and they're dogmatic about it. This is the way to do it. This is the way to do it. You know, we want feminine men. No, we want strong masculine men. No, we want feminine men. We want productivity and, you know, economics will save the world. No, we need conservation and that will save the world. So it's all black and white, right? It's one or the other. And to go around the circle, you've got to go all the way around. You've got to walk on the left foot, then the right foot, then the left foot, right? So what I'm getting at is most of us are unbalanced to begin with. We're not balanced. We're coming in from the remainder of a faulty, unbalanced system that leaned us this way, right? And so the most medicinal thing we can find is another unbalanced system that's leaning the other way to help us get started. Then, once we are ready to transition, maybe we are smart enough to find a system that encompasses all of it, left, right, and doesn't pretend that one's better or worse. Now, this same kind of dynamic, you know, goes on in lover dynamics, right? This person is so smart and successful. They're just so insensitive and uncreative, right? And so, you know, I'm just so tired of living out of my car and never being able to afford a cappuccino. And now I'm with this guy, right? And oh, it's the good life, right? But, you know, it never has any creative ideas. Maybe I'm better off with, you know, with that guy. And so, you know, this movement is very natural, right? It's how we walk. Left, right, left, right, left, right. You know, but we want a decision. You have to decide. Is it him or me? Is it who's it going to be, right? You know, we can't have you spending a week here and then a week there. What am I? your babysitter, whatever. I mean, I want a commitment, right? So this is the problem with either or thinking, right? So it's, or you have to find someone that actually combines, that does, that is artistic on their vacation and is disciplined and gets the bills paid when they're not, right? And then maybe you could do the same, right? Do it yourself, right? And then you don't need someone. And you balance that back and forth. Or maybe you have, this person I do my art with, and this person I do my sex with, and this person I do my chanting with, and, because I can't find that all together, right? I've never been able to find, that fantastic lover dynamic, 500% more, etc., with someone who loves artistic and loves these kinds of conversations. Never found them, right? So then there's kind of a movement, right? It's all these heady conversations. Let's find someone who likes chanting and singing and swimming naked in the water and having sex afterwards. And they're not interested in these conversations at all. They just want to look at the stars and this and that. And after a while, it gets a little boring. We can't talk about any cerebral topics, so I'll go over here and have 6-hour conversations and all of that. So this is our system. Basically, our job as individuals is to construct a system that takes us through the entire realm of our psyche, symmetrically, intelligently, generating sustainable well-being for ourselves and others. If it doesn't generate sustainable well-being for others, it doesn't ultimately do it for ourselves because they stop cooperating. Right? If every time someone has an interaction with you, their well-being goes down, they stop interacting with you, right? They're intelligent enough for that, unless they hate themselves, in which case deserve to be punished. Then they use you as their mechanism for punishing themselves. But then they deteriorate in well-being as they use you to punish yourself. And so the person you're relating to becomes less and less resourced and healthy and alive every month you're in relationship, right? Because they're using you to punish themselves and depleting themselves. So you have a more and more depleted partner to be with, right? So it doesn't work unless you have win-win, sustainable relationships. So my thought, and this is what I'm giving myself with this thing, my thought is that next time you see a system, however dogmatic, this is the way, the only way, and all that, you look at where you are, and you look at, does it bring you towards symmetry? And you look at if it brings you towards symmetry temporarily, but ultimately it's going to become toxic, does it have an exit point? Does it have a grace point to allow it to be medicinal for a period of time? Because if you're heavily on the left foot, then the system that's all about hopping on the right foot is going to be medicinal. It's going to be healing. It's, oh, what a relief. But if you are already dancing on the left foot and you find another system that's about dancing on the left foot, it's going to be, no, that's not, I've been dancing on this, you believe me, I've been dancing on this left foot for a long time and it needs a rest. So then you need to find another system, right? But someone else needs to find your system if they've been doing the opposite, right? Simple people need very simple systems, one or the other, so then they have to go back and forth, or they just become very sick as they stay with one until they die, basically, because they're not inhaling, they're exhaling and exhaling and exhaling rather than completing the cycle. So my hope is that you be able to have a tool, a technology, and a paradigm for evaluating which systems, people are systems, ideas are systems, paradigms are systems, religions are systems, cults are systems. That's what every culture is, a cult where everyone agrees to think and feel and do and be largely the same. We'll all eat spaghetti in Italy. Why? Well, that's just what we do in our cult, right? Nobody thinks about it. Well, why don't we bring in Indian food and make that the national dish for 2025? No, it's not what we do, because this is what we do, and this is what we do. That's how cults think, right? So you can start navigating the world and people to find the system that brings you into balance, into grace at that time, understanding that all cycles and all relationships A beginning, a middle, and an end. Goodbye.